Anyone can take it. That's the part almost nobody realizes about the securities industry's entry exam, and it's the reason it exists. You don't need a job on Wall Street. You don't need a firm to sponsor you. You need to be 18 and you need $100. And there's a 4-year clock attached to it that changes when you should sit it, which almost nobody thinks about until it's working against them.
Hey everyone, Leo here. The exam is the Securities Industry Essentials, the SIE, and FINRA runs it. 75 multiple choice items, 4 answer choices each.
This is the first episode of a full course on it. We're going to walk the entire content outline across this series, weighted exactly the way FINRA weights it, so that watching the series is genuinely enough.
This is Emma. And the no sponsor part deserves a second because it's genuinely unusual. Most securities exams require a firm to sign you up. The Series 7 does. The SIE doesn't.
So the ordinary path is backwards from what people assume. You don't get hired and then get licensed. You can get the SIE first and walk into interviews already holding it.
Which is exactly why FINRA built it this way. It was carved out of the old exams to let people show they understand the industry before anybody employs them.
One thing worth saying before we go further, because it saves people a wasted afternoon. The SIE is not the Series 7. It is not the Series 63. Those are the exams that actually let you do a job, and every one of them needs a firm behind you. The SIE sits underneath all of them as the shared foundation, which is exactly why FINRA could open it up. Nothing you can do with it alone requires supervising.
And $100. That's the whole cost of the exam itself.
Which, for a credential that opens the door to an industry, isn't much of a gate at all.
Emma has been chewing on the question underneath this all week, so she should be the one to put it.
I have. And it's the honest one rather than the flattering one. If anyone can sit it, is it worth anything?
So that's the shape of it. 75 questions, $100, no gatekeeper, and a course that starts here. And the site has free practice material at certs.richresourceful.com if you want to drill alongside these. Quick honest ask while we are here. If this has been worth your time so far, hit like, then subscribe and ring the bell. I know everyone asks, but this one is free, and it is how a small channel like this actually grows. Emma asked whether an exam anyone can sit is worth anything, and the honest answer has 2 halves. One is more encouraging than people expect, and one is less.
Start with the less encouraging half, because it saves people money.
Professor Nakamura is at the desk for this.
Close, though I'd put the boundary more precisely. The SIE on its own doesn't permit you to transact securities business. It's a knowledge credential, not a license. Selling requires a firm to associate with you and a second top-off examination.
So somebody who passes the SIE and expects to start placing trades on Monday has misunderstood it.
They have, and that misunderstanding is common enough to be worth stating plainly in a first episode. What the SIE does is remove the industry knowledge half of the qualification problem before an employer is involved.
There is a detail in there people skate past. When FINRA restructured the qualification system, it did not invent new material for the SIE. It took the foundational content that used to sit at the front of half a dozen separate exams and pulled it into one place. So the SIE is not an extra hurdle bolted on. It is material you were always going to have to learn, moved to a point in your life where you can actually learn it.
Professor Nakamura, that's the encouraging half, because the qualification problem used to be entirely circular. You needed a firm to get licensed, and firms wanted licensed people.
So the SIE breaks the circle. You arrive at the interview having already proved you know what a municipal bond is and why insider trading is prohibited.
And from the firm side, that's genuinely valuable. Sponsoring a candidate through a qualification is a cost and a risk. A candidate who has already cleared the general half is measurably cheaper to hire.
And that changes the arithmetic on the top exam too. If you sit the SIE first and pass it, the Series 7 you take later is the top-off portion only. You are not carrying the foundational half into that room with you. Same total material, split across 2 sittings, with the easier half done before anyone is paying your salary.
So it's not a license, it's a signal. And the signal is the point.
Which is why students take it. You can sit this in your final year of university with no job lined up at all.
Professor Nakamura, thank you. A knowledge credential rather than a license is the distinction I'd want somebody to have before they pay the $100.
It opens the door. It does not walk you through it.
%. One of the 4 sections is nearly half your exam, and if you divide your study time evenly across the 4, you've already made your first mistake.
And you don't have to take our word for the split, because FINRA publishes it. There's a content outline on their site, free, and this table is on page 2 of it.
Leo, keep me honest on these. Section 1, Knowledge of Capital Markets. 16%, 12 questions. That's regulators, market structure, the Federal Reserve, and how offerings work.
Section 2, Understanding Products and Their Risks. 44%, 33 questions. Equities, debt, options, funds, municipal products, and the risks attached to all of them.
33 of your 75 questions live in one section. That's the number to build a study plan around.
Section 3, Understanding Trading, Customer Accounts and Prohibited Activities. 31%, 23 questions. Orders, settlement, account types, anti-money laundering, and what you're forbidden to do.
And Section 4, Overview of the Regulatory Framework. 9%, 7 questions. Registration, conduct, and reportable events.
And here's what the weights are really telling you, because a percentage is easy to read and hard to act on. 33 plus 23 is 56. 2 sections out of 4 carry 75% of your exam between them. Products, and what you are allowed to do with them. If you understand only those 2, you are already past the passing line on raw coverage, before Section 1 and Section 4 add anything at all. 7 questions out of 75. Which doesn't mean skip it, because 7 questions can be the difference between passing and not, but it does mean don't spend a fortnight there.
And this series follows those weights deliberately. 13 episodes on Section 2, 3 on Section 4. The shape of the course matches the shape of the exam.
Which is a genuinely different study plan from the one most people build. The instinct is to start at Section 1 and work forward, because that is how a textbook is ordered. But Section 1 is 12 questions. You can spend 3 weeks there and have touched 16% of the exam. The outline is not a reading order. It is a budget. One more thing from that outline that's easy to miss and genuinely reassuring. Much of the content is described as common industry knowledge and general concepts, not tied to any single rule.
So it's not 75 rule numbers to memorize. The exam explicitly tests both rule-based and non-rule-based knowledge, and the second kind is the larger part.
And before we get to the clock we mentioned at the top, understand what those weights are actually telling you. They're a budget.
At the top I mentioned a 4-year clock. Here it is, and it's the one piece of planning nobody does.
Your SIE result is valid for 4 years, not forever.
Professor Nakamura, back to the desk.
And the 4 years are doing something specific. The SIE is half of a qualification. The other half is a top-off exam taken once a firm associates with you. The validity window is how long the industry will accept your half while you find the other.
Professor Nakamura, so the practical question isn't can I pass it? It's when should I sit it?
Precisely. And the answer follows from your own timeline rather than from any rule. If you intend to be working in the industry inside 4 years, sitting it now is free of downside. If you're a second-year student who won't job hunt for 3 years, the clock is thinner than it looks.
Because the 4 years run from the pass, not from the job offer.
And there's a real argument on the other side, which is worth saying rather than pretending the answer is obvious. Passing it early is the thing that gets you the interview in the first place.
There is a second thing the 4 years quietly protect you from, and it is worth knowing. Rules change. Settlement moved from 2 business days to 1 in May of 2024, and that single change rewrote answers in study guides that were perfectly correct the year before. A knowledge credential with no expiry would eventually be certifying knowledge that is wrong. 4 years is FINRA, saying this proves you knew the industry as it currently is.
So the two considerations pull against each other, and the resolution depends on how close you're to actually applying. Within 2 years, sit it. Beyond 3, the credential may expire before it has done any work for you.
Which is the first genuinely actionable thing in this episode, and it costs nothing to get right.
Professor Nakamura, thank you. The window being how long the industry accepts your half is a much clearer way to think about it than an expiry date.
And if the 4 years do run out, it is not a catastrophe. You have not failed anything, and nothing is held against you. You simply sit it again, at the same $100, against whatever the outline says by then. The cost of getting the timing wrong is one more exam fee, not a closed door, which is worth saying out loud because people freeze on this.
Count backwards from the job, not forwards from today.
So who is this actually for? And it's worth being straight about who it's not for, because $100 is $100.
It's for you if you want into the securities industry and expect to be applying within about 2 years. That's the clean case, and there's no argument against it.
It's also for you if you're already in an adjacent role: operations, compliance, client service, a bank branch. The SIE is how those people move on to the license side.
Picture Marcus Oyelowo, a 26-year-old working retail banking who wants onto the advisory side. His employer won't sponsor a Series 7 until he has moved teams, and the team won't take him without industry qualifications.
There is one more group worth naming, and it is the one we get asked about most. If you are leaving the military and looking at finance, the SIE is unusually well-shaped for you. It is short, it is $100, and it needs no employer, so you can hold it before your separation date rather than after. We will come back to how to pay for it in a later episode because there is a route most people miss, which is the circle again, and the SIE is the only thing that breaks it from his side, for $100 without asking anybody's permission.
And it's genuinely not for you if you've no intention of ever being registered. It's not a general investing course, and it won't make you a better personal investor.
It teaches what a registered person must know, which is a different thing from what an investor benefits from knowing, and the counter case deserves the same honesty. If you already hold a Series 7, this exam does nothing for you. You are past it. If you are a private investor who wants to understand markets better, there are far better uses of a study month than memorizing the reporting threshold for a suspicious activity report. That is a registered person's obligation, not an investor's tool.
And if you're 3 or more years out from applying, the honest advice is to wait, because the 4-year window will do more for you later than it does now.
Next time we take the scoring apart properly. 75 questions, a published passing score, and what that number actually means.
If one thing survives today, make it this. The SIE is the one securities qualification that doesn't require anybody's permission, and that's precisely what it's for.
No sponsor, no gatekeeper, $100.
If you're going to sit this exam, subscribing keeps the rest of this course arriving in order as we build it, and it costs you nothing at all. So before you go, tell me, are you coming at this from outside the industry or trying to move across from inside it? Go and look at that content outline. This is Professor Erica, and I will see you in episode 1.